Welcome to Melt. I'm Suresh Venkat. Now, one of the campaigns that caught our eye over the festive season was a 360-degree push for the Bajaj Pulsar N160. Unlike previous Pulsar films, all the major TV, ambient, outdoor and print ads featured stationary motorcycles and a QR code directing consumers to an uncensored commercial on YouTube. Conceptualized by Ogilvy India, the campaign certainly generated interest. Have a look and hear from Ogilvy India CCO Sukesh Nayak on the genesis of the idea.
नया पल्सर N160 का ये सेंसर्ड एड उनके लिए है जिन्हें थ्रिल पसंद नहीं है। अगर थ्रिल पसंद है तो QR कोड स्कैन करो और अनसेंसर्ड एक्शन पैक्ड एड का मजा लो। QR कोड स्कैन करो, थ्रिल करो।
The whole ad was asking someone, and especially those Pulsar people out there who really are keen to see a Pulsar ad, saying, oh, for you, there's a special ad just made for you. The entire ad for 20 seconds was telling you, scan this and go see the most thrilling ad ever made. But for those who actually like this is good, you can stay here and watch this and enjoy it. Scanning to do something is the world we live in. Now, the era belongs to those who will use this to tell the best story. So this idea is using the technology that is all around us and part of our life. So you must use the era that you live in, the time that you live in, but have the bravest ideas to connect and make people go and see those things. So when you work on an iconic brand and an iconic relationship, I think it's a bit of a challenge, but a good challenge to have. But since I know them, it also becomes a pressure for me to ensure that I must, and my team and I must do something that is quite exciting for them. So at the same time, a relationship is an advantage, but it's also a good pressure.
To know more, we spoke to Narayan Sundararaman, Head of Marketing at Bajaj Auto. Did the idea work and will it be useful for other Bajaj Auto brands? Let's find out as we get ready to melt with Narayan Sundararaman. So Narayan, let's begin with the most recent campaign from Bajaj, the Pulsar N60 that features QR code technology. Now QR codes have been around for a while. What's the consumer insight or truth that prompted the use of this kind of technology in this campaign?
So you're very right. I think QR codes are increasingly becoming, I would say, ubiquitous. So I think people are very familiar with QR codes. But I think if I just step back, we didn't look at it as a QR code specific campaign. Our requirements were slightly different. I mean, we just sat back and we said, our customer is increasingly starved for attention. I mean, everything is grabbing their attention. So, a conventional communication or an ad that we make, how do we make sure that it truly cuts through, it grabs attention? So we were actually looking for ways to solve that problem. I think QR code therefore became an aid because we sort of involved the customer in doing something to get from one piece of communication to another. So for the N160, which is a new bike that we've launched about a few months ago, we wanted to make sure that our customers know about it, engage with it, and therefore we came up with this idea of a two-pronged communication and announcer with a QR code which asks you to sort of scan it, and then you land at a longer format piece of communication which tells the story of a rider on an N160, sort of beating the other huge thing that most people in urban India are often face, which is the traffic situation and how the rider actually uses the N160 to sort of beat the map blues is really the story of that ad.
That's what the uncensored version.
That's the uncensored version of the communication.
Does integrating QR technology improve in engagement, improve in responses, improve in impressions? How do you measure the ROI on an investment like
that? So this is something that we juiced with when we said, okay, let's figure out ways in which we can, grab attention. What are the metrics that we look at? One, at the outset, I must say, and maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, I had my doubts on whether we can get people to actually scan to see another ad from one ad.
That is clunky. You've got to
Yeah,
force the consumer
it's
to do.
clunky, exactly. And then, what's the right balance? Often you have QR codes. Look, if there's a payment to be made, that's a particular task or a mission that you need to complete. So that's quite different. But, if you want them to go from one sort of destination to another destination to watch an ad, I wasn't sure how many people would actually take the time to do it. Then compounding it is that you're going to put it on a piece of communication which you see on TV. Yes, it's true that everybody sits watching TV with their mobile phone, but will they take out their camera app to scan it and see it, etc.? Those were the kind of things that we were looking at. I think what sort of tipped the scale for us was that we said that if it works, this would be a way in which we can boost engagement. So certainly it was engagement we were looking at more than impressions. I think if you want to target impressions, then I think a conventional TV campaign or a multimedia campaign that involves TV, print as well as digital will always do the job for you. But I think if you're measuring engagement, then this is a good way to test yourself. So we got very good engagement rates. I mean, far ahead of what personally I thought we would achieve. So it was a short campaign. We were on TV for about a week, and we also had print and other multimedia things on it. And cumulatively, we are heading to about 500,000 people who've scanned, the QR code
Across the media.
Okay. I mean, if I just sit back right now, I think we've got 500,000 people to scan the QR code. Is a pretty good number.
And Narayan, this campaign comes from Ogilvy, one of your many agency partners, and the Bajaj Ogilvy relationship is, of course, legendary. How do you continue to enable this kind of ongoing relationship with the agency?
Well, I think it takes two to tango, two to clap, etc. All those cliches are true, and I think yes, Ogilvy is a very old relationship. So I think there is a level of comfort that we enjoy, and I must say that we have a comfortable relationship, and we strive for that with all our agency partners. But with Ogilvy, I think since and particularly on Pulsar, since it's been there from the very beginning, I think it is special. The good part is that Ogilvy manages to sort of keep the freshness of ideas and that pipeline coming through. So I think that's what sustains it. We have a lot of fun when we're talking. All briefs are sort of jointly co-created, so to say.
Do you sit in on creative meetings, for instance?
Yes, I do.
And when you come up with ideas, does the Ogilvy team take your ideas as seriously as
well,
they would their
I'd
own?
like to believe that they do so willingly, not just because I'm
Not because you're a
marketing.
client, because you're perhaps a creative brain on the project.
Yeah, so I think it takes a while, I think, to get to that level of comfort with creative teams. But I think that is what one must aim for. Because I firmly do believe that an idea can come from anywhere. And it has happened over the long course of my career where, not just with Ogilvy, with all my agency partners, I mean, if you reach a certain comfort, they listen to you. Not just because they have to, but because they think
They actually want to.
Yeah, because they want to, and they believe that a good idea can come. And there have been times when there has been, say, a campaign idea or a script idea that has actually come from us,
The client side.
from the client side. So
what defines the Pulsar customer as opposed to the KTM customer, the Dominar customer, and the other bike brand customers, the Avenger
it's a
customers?
tough one. I mean, let me try.
Is there a clear differentiation, first of all?
Yes, there is a clear differentiation. So one obvious differentiation that happens is by the price point of these bikes. They address a certain common thing that everybody or common sort of features that people look at. But of course, they also address different markets because they are priced in that manner as well. And that's because we load quite a bit of technology appropriate for each one of these use cases. So let me explain a little bit further. All these bikes have score on performance. And when I say performance, it's got to do with the speed, the torque, and the acceleration and the way these bikes handle. They've got a lot of advanced biking technologies depending on, the kind of customer and what they look out for. So I would say a Pulsar is a high performance bike. which is sort of chosen by those who look for a lot of street riding. It also doubles up as a very good bike that you can take out on your daily commute. So that's the kind of balance that we try to achieve with the Pulsar. Something like an KTM is pretty much the top of the line epitome of performance biking that you can purchase. So it is often favored by people who want to push the limits, who are in competition with themselves. So therefore, the moniker of the ready to race sort of echoes with them. And the Dominar is a sports tourer. It is for those who not only want to use it as as a city bike, but is also great when you want to venture out on the weekends, or even it's extremely capable when you want to go out on a longer 7-day tour or a 7-day ride across various kinds of road conditions. Of course, not too extreme, but certainly if you want to make a long trip or a tour, it's a fantastic bike.
Narayan, tell us how the media mix for each of these brands is different from the other.
So a Pulsar, the media mix would be slightly more what I would say mass. So we would use television, as we have in the latest campaign, but we'll have large doses of digital engagement as well. Whereas for a KTM, it's largely a digital and on ground touch and feel initiatives. And like it will be for Dominar. We have a lot of community based initiatives for KTM and Dominar because the customer wants to do stuff with their bike and they want to do it with like-minded people. So we launched about a couple of years ago the Pro XP for KTM, which is a set of community and ride engagement. So it has 3 legs. There is the adventure for the adventure seeker. There are tours as well as an adventure academy that we've set up. There are sort of tarmac rides over both weekends as well as longer distances. And the third vertical, which is more into racing, is something that we're looking at.
And almost every manufacturer makes it a point to invest in these communities, don't they? Some of them dabble in fashion, some are adventure rides, some are touring rides. How do you measure the ROI on this sort of community building? And it costs you money to do this.
Yes.
How do you measure the ROI on these community building exercises?
The way we look at it is that it's an investment in the brand. Because our customers are very keen. Even if we don't do it, our customers are going to get together and do stuff on their bike. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. I think the benefits that we see is that it's a wonderful sort of showcase for the bike. It gets a lot of bonding and a lot of positive word of mouth going through rider community networks. The bikers have their own network and their own
language, from what I hear.
And their own language, and they sort of have very frank and free. There are these groups where if somebody has a problem with their bike, they would put out a query, and Pat will come. Okay, why don't you take a look at these things? So it's a very engaged community. We often get to know about, I wouldn't say problems, but if there's a problem that people sort of are encountering and we're listening very actively, we can actually step in and offer some help to sort things out. And that the community is fairly, sort of grateful for as well. I won't, they're happy that, they're listened to. And we benefit because, we can know a little bit more about the product as well as what our customers are looking out for. So I think it works both ways. So building it's very tough. It costs a lot of money. I think more than just the money and the time, it costs a lot of energy, I would say, because you need to be in listening mode. You need to be in that mode to sort of sort things out for the community rather than for yourself.
And do you have a specific MarTech team within the organization to do this sort of listening, social listening, as it were?
Yes, we do have teams, both within Bajaj as well as we have agency partners who do this for us. And they listen and they, do the analysis and tell us what people are talking about, what kind of things interest them. When to intervene, when not to intervene is often actually the challenge. My learning has been that sometimes it's There are some things only that you can sort of participate in, let me put it that way. There are other things where I think
Where the community wants to leave
just leave them alone.
Leave
They'll
the
sort
company
it
out of it.
Yes, I think the credo that one likes to follow is that it's for the community. It's not necessarily always for the brand.
It's not an opportunity for the brand to plug anything.
It's not an opportunity to sell, and that's, I think, the balance that we all need to sort of respect and learn.
Let's talk about the impact of digitization on the consumer purchase journey. How has this changed or impacted your marketing thinking?
It's no secret that our lives are becoming much more digital, and I think the same is true for customers who are looking out for two-wheelers and specifically motorcycles. Where we've seen this most play out is in in the discovery phase. I think the desire to find out more about a bike was always there. I think the tools have now gone digital. So what we're finding is that there are a lot of queries, Google searches around, features for the bike, the price for the bike, as well as reviews. So, that age-old people want to find out how good a bike is, what was called word of mouth, which they'll ask their friends and their family. Some part of it is moving to the digital sphere. And that's, I think, one big change in the customer journey that we can detect immediately. That people are...
But bikes being bikes, everybody would want to touch it, feel it, ride it, sit on it. And with the pandemic ending, do you see the return of all your activation-based activities, for instance?
Yes, you're right. I think the one critical difference that this category differs from many others is the weightage for the touch and feel. And I think the touch and feel is, it has many it's a bundle of many things. One is obviously you'd like to go for a test ride and you'd like to sample, say, a new bike. How good is it? Does it suit my requirement, my riding style, etc., etc. I think the other part is that for a large part of the commuter end of the market, people are also looking for assurance and reliability. And one mustn't forget that the act of buying a motorcycle is just the start of the relationship. A person is going to use this motorcycle for anywhere from 5 to 7 years. That's the kind of life that we've seen, ownership life that we've seen. And in the course of that 5 to 7 years, they would be coming to our dealerships for their servicing requirement, maintenance requirements, right? So they do want to sort of get confidence in
the retail experience,
in the service experience. So I think that's another aspect of touch and feel which is extremely important. And there is a lot of digitization that can happen in, sort of removing frictions in this journey, even in the service and the maintenance space. So yeah, digitization, I think, is going to impact large parts of the journey.
In conjunction with the actual
in conjunction
touch and feel
with the
and
actual,
service.
The touch and feel, as you said.
So Narayan, Bajaj is famous for pushing its products as a lead brand, be it a Dominar or an Avenger or a KTM or a Pulsar, rather than the mother brand Bajaj itself. How do you make this strategy continuously work? How do you make sure people, when they buy a Pulsar, know it's a Bajaj Pulsar, not just a Pulsar? And does it matter?
If you look at it, we are one of those OEMs who actually cater to a fairly wide range of not just bikes, but don't forget we also have three-wheelers.
Three-wheelers,
right? And now we have
four-wheelers,
well, yeah, which is the Qute, right? So if you look at it, it's a fairly wide spectrum, right? We'd like to think that we are actually a very versatile manufacturer of 2, 3 and 4-wheeled vehicles. Now, one brand that sort of straddles across all these and yet cater to, the individual requirements and the nuances, of each segment becomes quite difficult to manage. So we just step back and we say that where is the Bajaj brand going to play a critical role? And I think the Bajaj brand brings with it the legacy, the trust, and the sort of comfort that customers require over the life cycle of ownership. However, when it comes to individual acts of actually, choosing bikes for their use cases or purposes, then the individual brands start to flex their muscles, if you can call it that. So a Pulsar is a street bike, as I said, and it has a certain level of performance built into it. It has a signature 10-second rush that you get when you ride it. And that's something that you will find only in a Pulsar. So therefore, the brand starts to distinguish itself
From the
others on those parameters. Likewise, the Dominar is a sports tourer, so its character is very different. The KTMs have a very different character. So that's where the individual brands start to sort of play themselves out. And of course, we have a range where it's the Bajaj Platina or the Bajaj Pulsar, which brings in that comfort and the legacy and that, reliability quotient that customers always look out.
And is there any sort of common tonality to all of these? Is there some sort of Bajaj spirit, as it were, in the advertising of all these brands?
No, we haven't activated that.
There's no articulated philosophy that says...
There's no articulated philosophy. It's sort of more... Pulsar has a certain tone of voice, which is very distinct from Platina, which is very...
It stays true to that tone of voice.
It stays true to that tone.
Narayan, you handle a lot of brands. How do you split your time between all these brands? Are there clusters that you spend time on every day or every week?
I would. I normally spend about 2 to 3 days on the motorcycle side of the business. And again, like right now, it's festive, so a lot of time is going towards getting campaigns launched. Specifically, if we had the N160, we had another campaign specifically in some states for our commuter range. So activating those, I spend about 2 to 3 days in a week monitoring feedback, reviews, etc. And then about a day, I would say, on our intracity business, which is our three-wheeler business, and a day on KTM. So 5 days is split
brand cluster.
Currently. This changes. I think, for example, last month we had a pretty big project on the three-wheeler business. So I was spending about 2 days on the three-wheeler business.
All right, Narayan Sundararaman, thank you very much for talking.
Pleasure. Wonderful. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode. You can follow Melt on social media. The handle is Ready to Melt, or simply log on to readytomelt.com. If you'd like to follow me, I'm @Suvenk on Twitter. Till next week, goodbye and thanks for watching.